Hi everyone, this is a quick summary video about aqueous humor. What exactly is aqueous humor? It's a transparent water-like fluid which is similar to blood plasma but obviously way less protein in concentration compared to the blood. And this is secreted by the ciliary body, very important thing that you need to remember. And other than that, it fills the interior and the posterior chambers of the eye, which basically forms these both structures, the interior and posterior chamber of the eye, these both regions, they form the interior section of the eye. And yeah, it shouldn't be confused with the vitreous humor because vitreous humor it's located in the space which is between the lens and the retina. So that's vitreous humor. Whereas aqueous humor it's between the lens and the cornea, right? And a little bit about vitreous humor just to get it removed. Like let's just get it cleared first. So vitreous humor is basically a gelatinous mass which is present behind the lens and in front of the retina. It consists of fibrils of proteoglycans, right? Elongated fibrils of proteoglycan, and since this is of a gel-like consistency, it doesn't really circulate around, very much unlike the aqueous humor. Aqueous humor has a watery consistency, therefore, it has the tendency to circulate around. Now, one more thing, let's clarify that first. Your eye is divided into two sections. This is the posterior section, so this is the interior section. So, vitreous humor, it occupies the posterior section, also known as the vitreous chamber. And aqueous humor, it occupies the interior section of the eye. Now, interior section of the eye consists of anterior chamber and the posterior chamber. So anterior chamber lies in front of the iris and posterior chamber lies right behind the iris and in front of the lens. So this is your posterior chamber. And aqueous humor, it covers both of these chambers which constitute the interior section of the eye. And vitreous humor, it covers spans over the posterior section of the eye. That has been cleared. Now let's just keep it at the side. Talking about aqueous humor, as I've already mentioned, it's freely circulating and it's constantly being produced. Therefore, it needs to be drained simultaneously as well. What are the functions of aqueous humor? It has five main functions. First thing first, it keeps the eye distended. Second, it maintains the intraocular pressure. Third, it provides nutrition, right? And fourth is that it washes the lens and cornea. Why lens and cornea? Because it occupies this space between the lens and the cornea. So it washes both of these structures. And why does it provide nutrition to these both structures? Because the lens and cornea, these both are avascular structures. And since aqueous humor comes in contact with both of them, so it provides nutrition to both of these avascular structures, the lens and cornea. And the final thing is that it removes the waste metabolites of your this region. So what are the five functions of aqueous humor? It keeps the eye distended, it maintains the intraocular pressure of the eye, and then it provides nutrition to these avascular structures, then it removes the waste metabolites, and it also washes the cornea and the lens. Right. Moving on. Production. Now, how is it produced? It's produced by the ciliary body. And how much of aqueous humor does your eye, or is it capable of holding at once? So your eye has 0.3 ml of aqueous humor at one time, right? And how much of it is being produced per minute? So 2.5 microliter. Now, micro seems like a very small quantity, but yep, that's still a lot for a structure as small as your eye, and especially a region as small as the interior section of your eye. And so 2.5 microliter of your aqueous humor is being produced per minute. So if this amount is being produced per minute, it also needs to be drained in order to keep a balance between the production and drainage. So 0.3 ml of aqueous humor is held in this space. Oh, what is this? What is this? What is this? Okay, NVM. Right, but yeah, laser. And thank God that I learned how to record on the iPad because now my life has become so much easier and it's way more fun. Right. So yeah, what was I talking about? So yeah, we discussed the function and now we're talking about the production. Now this is your ciliary body, right? So ciliary body, the interior region which is corrugated. Why interior? Because here this is the eye and this is the posterior region. So this is corrugated, therefore it's called pars plicata, and the posterior region it's plain, therefore it's called pars plana. So this is the structure of your ciliary body, and in front you have iris. Now the three main things that you need to keep in mind when you're talking about ciliary body. One is ciliaris muscle, then you have this highly vascular stroma, then you have the non-pigmented ciliary epithelium. These three structures, these are very important when you talk about production. So first thing first, the epithelium, it actively secretes aqueous humor. Once the aqueous humor is secreted, where does it come? Into the posterior chamber, because it's secreted into the posterior chamber. This is a very important question. So right behind the iris. And so once aqueous humor comes there, then who secretes it? These epithelial cells, the ciliary epithelial cells. They secrete aqueous humor. Once it comes there, sodium, chloride, and bicarbonate, they are also passively released there. This means that the osmotic pressure here increases. Once osmotic pressure increases, the water also follows along. It comes from the vascular stroma and it also is dragged along. So therefore, your aqueous humor is formed. So from posterior chamber, in the posterior chamber, it is produced, it's released. Ciliary body, the folded part, the plicata region. From there, you have secretory epithelium. So first of all, aqueous humor, the fluid is actively secreted, and then sodium is secreted that pulls along chloride and bicarbonate. Osmotic pressure increases, water also follows along, and also three very important things: glucose, amino acid, and vitamin C. I think I forgot to mention that here. Yep, here. That glucose, amino acid, and ascorbic acid. These ascorbic acid, vitamin C, which is an antioxidant. These are the constituents of your aqueous humor. That being said, now let's discuss the circulation. Done. Now let's talk about circulation. Circulation is yeah, here better. So if it's produced here from the plicata region, right, pars plicata, ciliary body, it like forms and releases your aqueous humor into the posterior chamber. From posterior chamber, it circulates around the iris and goes into the anterior chamber between the this angle which is formed by the cornea and iris. This is called iridocorneal angle. So there, this flows. So this is basically the circulation. This pathway, if you keep in mind, then you'll also have your circulation clear. Let's talk about drainage now. Now, here, right here between the cornea and iris, iridocorneal angle, there you'll find trabeculi meshwork or trabecular meshwork. See here between the cornea and the iris. There you'll find trabeculi meshwork. So this, what happens is that when you're talking about drainage, so first of all, as I said, during circulation, it moves to iridocorneal angle. There, the aqueous humor goes to the trabeculi meshwork. Trabeculi from there it goes to the canal of Schlems. From canal of Schnell's, it moves to the collector's channel. From there, it goes into the aqueous vein. From aqueous vein, it goes to epicellary vein. From epicellary vein, it goes to extraocular vein, right? So, what's the pathway? Iridocorneal angle. From iridocorneal angle, trabeculi meshwork. From trabeculi meshwork, it goes into the canal of Schlems. From canal of Schlems, there are collector channels. From collector channels, it moves into the aqueous vein. From aqueous vein, epicellary vein. From epicellary vein, extraocular vein. Right? So that's the flow chart. You have to learn that. There's no explanation here. You just have to learn it. Right? Now, what's the pathology? Where does the pathology come? In cases of hemorrhage or infection, increased RBCs or white blood cells, cellular debris increases. Now, this cellular debris can potentially block the trabecular meshwork. So, if it blocks it, there's nowhere for the aqueous humor to drain into. And this means that the aqueous humor starts accumulating, intraocular pressure increases because intraocular pressure maintaining the intraocular pressure is the function of the aqueous humor. But if it starts increasing, what happens is that the structures of the eye can potentially get distorted. Your retina, it will start getting distended more and more backward. If it's pressed, somehow the optic nerve can damage and this can lead to blindness. So this is what, in short words, glaucoma is. Short sentences, glaucoma is super important for you all to understand. This is secondary glaucoma, which is caused by the blockage of the drainage system. And our eye is very smart. It has two ways to tackle this. But obviously, just to some extent, it has an accessory drainage pathway which uh, goes somehow this way, that this is your, let's say, eye, right? And this is the iris. So here the trabecular meshwork is supposed to be there. So instead, if this is blocked, so what happens? It drains into the ciliary body. This is the ciliary body, right? This ciliary body, it ranges. This is plicata plana, then sorry, pars plana, and then pars plicata, and then here is also ciliary body. So it starts draining. A part of it starts draining into the ciliary body. From ciliary body, it goes into choroid and then suprachoroidal space. There's suprachoroidal space, and then from there it goes to scleral venous network and then episcleral venous network, and then it goes to the systemic circulation. So this is accessory drainage, but this is capable of draining only 10% of the aqueous humor. For the remaining aqueous humor, you need to have the trabecular meshwork system working to drain the 90%. Otherwise, intraocular pressure will increase, retina damage, optic nerve damage, and it will lead to blindness. And other than that, the other way to prevent it is also that our eyes have phagocytic cells, aqueous humor in its region, for example, especially in the trabecular meshwork, and even in there's this canalicular gel around the canal of Schlemms. It also has, it's rich in phagocytic cells. So these engulf the cellular debris and maintain the intraocular pressure. So that's the secondary glaucoma. And primary glaucoma is basically that when you talk about trabecular meshwork, its one function is drainage, right? But its second function is to provide physiologic resistance. And this physiologic resistance is very important because what does it do? It maintains intraocular pressure. And but what happens is that as a person you know grows older, this trabecular meshwork, it starts sclerosing, hardening, or fibrosing. Because of that, there's unduly high resistance. Yeah, it's supposed to provide resistance, but that's to maintain the intraocular pressure, right? The physiologic resistance. But because of it, hardening, it provides unduly high resistance. Because of that, intraocular pressure increases and it leads to glaucoma, primary glaucoma. And there are two types, open angle and closed angle, that we'll discuss later. So that's pretty much it. I hope it's clear.